everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing with you a healthy cinnamon bun recipe. These pumpkin cinnamon rolls are delicious, perfect for fall, plus they are vegan and healthy and paleo and all of that stuff, but they taste so delicious and they really give you that like warm, comforting feeling with a nice melted icing on the top. They're delicious, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video and let's get into it. So starting off, we're gonna use, of course, some pumpkin. Pumpkin is super good for you. It is rich, full of beta carotene, which gives it that wonderful orange color. It's really great for your gut in terms of fiber and all the minerals in the beta carotene, which are good for your eyes. Some coconut sugar, as well as some apple cider vinegar. And then I'm adding in some coconut milk, but you can also use any kind of nut or seed milk that you have. And then some coconut oil, and you can either do melted or more solid like I'm doing. It'll just be a little bit easier to mix if you melt it if you want, but also working with it like this is perfectly fine. So go ahead and then mix all of these wet ingredients together, and this is what's going to make the wet base of our pumpkin cinnamon rolls. Oh, they're so good, honestly. I cannot wait for you guys to make this recipe. Now the secret in this recipe is using cassava or cassava flour, and this is a great grain-free flour. It's paleo, but because the consistency is very similar to white flour, it really helps give you that like legit cinnamon bun, cinnamon roll kind of texture. I'm adding in some pumpkin spice, but you will also just do cinnamon if that's what you have, as well as some baking soda, which is just going to help these rise. And of course, everything will be listed in the description box below for you to have, so you don't need to take notes or anything while watching the video. So then go ahead and mix together the dry ingredients into the wet. If you have like a KitchenAid mixer or something like that, you can definitely use that to kind of get your dough consistency. I don't have one and I just use it by hand, and you will eventually get your dough. Once the dough's all mixed together, go ahead and chill that for 20 minutes. And while that's chilling, we can go ahead and make our filling. So I'm using coconut sugar, some coconut oil, and then some pumpkin spice. And I like to use either coconut sugar or date sugar because these are like a non-refined sugar, so they're gonna be a better option in baking. So add that all together, and then we're just going to stir that up, and this is what's going to make the inside flavoring of our cinnamon buns or cinnamon rolls. Let me know down below, do you call them cinnamon buns or cinnamon rolls? I'm really curious. I feel like I switch it up. Once your dough is all nice and chilled, we're gonna put down a sheet of parchment paper and start to roll it out. Now the dough will be a little bit more crumbly than normal because we are not using any gums in here and we're using paleo flour, but it does hold together. You just kind of have to roll it out into about a ½ an inch thick. So I'm just using my rolling pin. It doesn't get stuck or anything. You just have to really roll it together to get it to stick for the most part. And then once we slice it up, it'll be good to go. So don't worry if it's a little bit crumbly at the edges, because once you roll it out, it will stick together. So just rolling it out into a large rectangle shape, about ½ an inch, like I said, and then we're gonna sprinkle on our filling mixture. That is just our coconut oil, coconut sugar, and pumpkin pie spice or cinnamon, whichever one you prefer. You can also use a dusting of cinnamon on the inside of the dough itself if you want it extra cinnamony, but I'm just sprinkling this around and then kind of using a spatula just to gently spread it out. And you do end up rolling this out, so don't worry if you don't get every single nook and cranny, because we do roll it and then kind of bake it together. And the great thing about using the parchment paper underneath is that it's gonna make it a lot easier to roll. So then you can start at one end of it and gently like lift up the parchment paper to roll it together. I did speed this part up, but it honestly, as you can see, it does roll off the parchment paper quite easily. It's not sticking, and you kind of just keep going, pressing it down into a roll shape, going all the way through until you get kind of one big log form. Then we're gonna slice it up. The edges are gonna be a little bit more messy than the inside of the roll, so don't worry if the first one you slice isn't as perfect as the inside ones. The inside ones will be a little bit more like aesthetically pleasing. So just cut those up about 1.5 inches thick until you get through the whole log. You can also make mini ones if you like. I would say these make like your traditional average size cinnamon buns. They're not giant, but they're not mini. I'm placing this into a greased baking dish that I just rubbed a little bit of coconut oil on. Make sure you do put something down because you don't want them to stick, and then you can just organize them all together. And I fit most of these in there except for one, so you might want to use a bigger one if you want to bake them all at the same time, or just do a couple batches. So just arranging them in a circle all the way around the outside and then put one in the middle. After you've baked them, allow them to cool slightly, and then for a glaze, I'm just using coconut butter. Coconut butter is a really great like sugar-free way to top them. Just make sure you do wait a little bit for them to cool so that the glaze doesn't completely melt off everywhere. So I'm just squirting out some of this coconut butter. It's so rich and decadent. It tastes amazing, kind of like as a really quick icing or glaze, but you can also use your favorite one here instead. So I'm spreading that on the top of these buns, and while they're slightly warm but not fully hot, it will allow the glaze to kind of melt a little bit, but not melt into a pool at the bottom. You can store these in the freezer or the fridge for 48 hours. If you don't consume them within 48 hours, I would say definitely freeze them, save them for next time, but they're honestly so warm and gooey and delicious. They have the perfect texture to them because we use the cassava flour. They have the pumpkin, the cinnamon, the perfect little fall breakfast treat. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and leave me any requests down below for anything you would like me to healthify or create a healthy version of. I will also leave my last healthy recipe here on the screen so you can check it out after this video, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye guys!